Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. So today we're going to take a look at the latest generation for the Dodge Challenger SRT Hellcat Redeye. Huge shout out to Carolina Auto Direct for providing this muscle car for me today. Check out their website. They have a massive selection of pretty much brand new inventory. So the Challenger that you see behind me is finished off in Summit White, and we'll go over the MSRP once we go over all the specs and features and get this out on the road. So let's start off with what powers the Hellcat. This has a 6.2 liter supercharged V8. It's paired to an 8-speed automatic transmission, pumping out 797 horsepower, 707 pound-feet of torque. That power sent to the rear wheels. This weighs in right around 4,500 pounds. It'll do 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds with a top speed of 203 miles an hour. It also has a fuel capacity of 18.5 gallons. You'll expect to see around 13 miles per gallon in the city, 22 out on the highway. This also has a wheelbase of 116.2 inches. Its overall length is 197.5. It has a width of 75.7 and a height of 57.2 inches. As we move on to the exterior styling now for the Challenger, well, let's start off with all the functional air inlets to provide a lot of cooling to that supercharged engine. So the entire lower section, pretty much the entire middle, even the headlights on both sides, which I'll go over, and both of the snorkels for the hood there are all functional. So this is basically designed for maximum cooling to that engine. So coming back to these headlight housings, you'll notice that the headlights are actually on the far outer section. The inner housings are actually hollow because those are 2 additional air inlets for even more cooling. It's nice to see though that those are functional for the DRLs or the turn signals, but they're also functional for that airflow. So pretty cool to see that. There's also a massive lower front splitter for the entire bumper there, and that's pretty much all you get. Very narrow upper grille there. It's sunk in a little bit too. So you can see all the bodywork just underneath that. It has a nice design to it, but it's specifically designed for maximum cooling for that performance-oriented engine. Now, as we work our way to the side, this has a set of 20-inch wheels with the 5-spoke design finished off in matte black, which is a nice contrast against this white. This even has massive brake calipers, both front and rear. And you can see the Hellcat logo with the Redeye, because of course it is the Redeye model. This has body colored side mirrors too. And then nothing too crazy for the side, kind of a plain design in my opinion. Really nice lines though, it gives it a good look, but nothing too fancy as far as wheel arches, anything like that. A little bit of a flare for the fender arches, both front and rear, and then a line that goes from the headlights all the way to the taillights. Now for the rear, this does have a matte black trunk mounted spoiler with an integrated backup camera. This does have LED taillights with that ovalish shape design to them. Dodge is right in the middle. That's the only place you are going to see Dodge for the entire exterior. The lower section there is plastic. It houses all of the parking sensors, and then this has the dual exhaust, which we can go ahead and start up. Because this does have remote start, let's listen to that V8. And we will get some exhaust clips here in just a little bit. Now to work our way to the cargo, you can use the button on the key fob, but I want to show you guys the hidden button up underneath the backup camera. So you can just push on that. You don't even have to grab your key fob, which is very nice. Now for this interior, you'll notice there's actually a lot of space. The Challenger is a big vehicle, so you can house a lot of items in the back. You can also flip up the bottom here where you'll see there's even a little bit more storage, a tire inflator kit, access to some batteries there and some components, so you can put some stuff up underneath the floor. You can even fold the back seats down too, so that gives you a lot more usable and interior space if you need to utilize that. They don't go quite all the way flat, but it's very nice and helpful to have, especially for a 2-door vehicle. Now let's work our way to the interior, where there is a small black button on the top of the door handle. You can use that to lock it. If you walk away and then you come back to the vehicle, it will unlock and we can open it up the rest of the way. Now for this Hellcat, you get leather and Alcantara for the door panel, along with all the white stitching. There's a split design to the storage, so there's a little bit on the back section, a little bit on the front section there. This has the Alpine sound system, memory seating adjustments, some brush trim for that release handle too. And you'll notice for the seats, it gets the same attention to detail with the leather Alcantara. These are heated seats, really good bolstering support to them. But let's work our way to the back seats now. So there's a tab that you can use to fold that backrest. If you need to move the seat, you do have to use the automatic adjustment down below. It will not automatically slide forwards for you. But at 5'10", I have a decent amount of space. This is a 5-seater vehicle, so you could have 3 people back here and be pretty comfortable. My head is just up against the headliner, but I'm not having to slouch or anything. Maybe a little bit on the side. I could honestly ride around back here, maybe on a small road trip, but around town, really no issues if you need the practicality having back seats in your sports car. So it's nice that this is a comfortable 5-seater. You get some climate adjustments for your backseat passengers. You also get the armrest with 2 cup holders and a decent amount of visibility. Pillar's not all that bulky, but it's nice to have that side glass there to give you some extra visibility. So if you're looking for a sports car, you want to take your friends with you, it's a pretty good option. And it is a low vehicle, so we have to step over and down over the door sill. And then the steering wheel is solid and perforated for the leather surrounding it. There's a little bit of trim accents in the lower section. On this right side, you will see all of the cruise control settings. And then on the left side, we have Bluetooth and voice commands and all of these for the gauge cluster. In order to do that, let's fire this back up and take a listen to this V8. And coming back to the gauge cluster, you'll see the tach on the left side, engine temperature is on that right side, and right in the middle for the massive LCD screen, we can use these arrows to further go through all this info. So currently it's showing miles per hour. You can also see some other engine vitals on the left with the fuel level on the right. We can go into vehicle information and pull up a lot of vitals. You can scroll through all of this and quickly pull all of this information up, just depending on what you need to monitor for the day. Under the performance tab, you can go through a lot more depending on what you'd like to do for the day and monitor all of these different timers to really have some fun with this car. Fuel economy is there if you choose to look at it. There's trip information along with your audio, any messages that may appear. You can even configure what you would like to see on this setup. So the upper left has the clock, upper right is the outside temperature, which are configurable. And you can even look at a few other settings here for that setup. And then we have any diagnostics and a speed warning too. So it's very helpful to have all of that. Now this does have steering wheel mounted paddle shifters. It also still retains volume and tuning for the radio. So volume is on the right side, tuning is underneath the left paddle. And then on this left side, you will see the headlight adjustments, dimmer switches for the gauges, even a release for that trunk. This still has the foot brake for that e-brake there. There's one air vent. And then as we work our way to the center, this is the 8.4-inch touchscreen system. You will see in the lower section, shortcuts to media. We can get into the climate controls where you can monitor all this information, where you like the air to go, temperature, all of that. There's also the controls for the heated and ventilated seats, along with the heated steering wheel. Different apps that you can go into, like the SRT dashboard. You can control launch control and where you would like the RPM to be. If we are in the different driving modes, you can go to track, sport, or custom, and you can see the diagram there, which is very nice to have. You can also pull up the performance pages, which is similar to what was shown on the gauge cluster, but you can also view a lot more information as well. So you can see some diagrams there, some timers that you can set up, different gauges to monitor, even the G-force meter. You can look at the engine, give the vehicle some gas, and see that adjust. There's even a dyno graph as well. So it's nice to have all of that. For a performance-oriented vehicle, you have a lot of performance tech. You can have different race options. You have line lock, so you can warm up those rear tires at the drag strip. Launch control again. There's also a chiller, so the AC will be used to help cool the engine. If you're doing a lot of spirited driving, there's also a race cool down. A lot of tech to go through from a factory vehicle, which is awesome to see. And if we go back into the apps, you can also go to the SRT mode. There's also a projection, how you can pair your phone to the system, performance pages, and a lot of other settings to go through. You can even pull up the map in full screen and then go through some of these settings. So it's nice to have all of that front and center. There's an air vent on both sides with a really nice trim surrounding all of that. There's the engine start stop button, and then even some physical buttons for that upper screen. There's power and volume for the radio. Tuning is on the right side. You can shut that screen off if you'd like to, more of a calm setting. There's a shortcut to SRT, which is what we just went through. Launch control, traction control, as well as the parking sensors. And then underneath that, physical buttons for the climate. So you don't have to be in that screen in order to go through all that. You can quickly reach down to do all of that. Now there's a little bit of storage to the right of the shifter, and then with it in reverse, you will see that backup camera up here. You can also use the shifter to go through the gears, or the paddle shifters like I mentioned earlier, and then park is all the way back up front there. There are 2 cup holders just behind that, and then more leather on the armrest. If I open this up, you will see a good amount of storage along with a lot of auxiliaries where you can charge electronics if you need to. Now the glove box has a split shelf design to it. You can definitely fit in a lot of items. And then up top, this does have a sunglass holder, really convenient to have. There's the dome lights, rear view mirror, of course. As we set off now behind the wheel for the Dodge Challenger, maybe you can hear the supercharger whine under a very mild acceleration. That doesn't get old if you're behind the Charger, the Challenger, even the TRX. Supercharger whine to me is something very cool to hear. Now for the Challenger that we're in, the Hellcat Redeye starts right around $76,000. Really not all that expensive for the type of car. I will say this isn't the first Challenger that I've been behind the wheel of, but I've seen a lot of comments from previous Challenger videos where you're paying a lot of money and you're not getting as quite of an updated interior as some other models and some other brands that you can get for a similar cost. And I will agree with those comments that I've seen, but I think for the style of vehicle that this is, no other brand has a 2-door car like this with 797 horsepower and over 700 pound-feet of torque in a factory vehicle. So you're buying this because you want that performance. You want this dashboard here, the SRT dashboard, all of the performance that you can look at in the gauge cluster, line lock, which is factory, you break it in, then you can go to the drag strip, do burnouts, get the tires warmed up. You have the chiller there for the engine. You can't buy anything else that has that amount of performance and technology for under $80,000. It's very, very impressive from Dodge to offer a vehicle like this. They have some crazy models like their Trackhawks and everything like that, where you're just buying the performance and the power. Now, I will say it's quick. I don't have the black key. I've had the black key in other models before, and they do get up and move. They also weigh a lot too. So for their weight, they're fast, but they're not like throw you back in your seat fast, especially when you compare it to other vehicles that weigh significantly less. So you have a lot more power, but you have a lot more weight that you have to push and to transfer that energy to get it up and moving. But it's a quick car. It's not as fast as some other vehicles, even though it has almost 800 horsepower. The weight on it, I think, is a little bit of a hindrance. If it weighed less with that much power, it would be a whole different ballgame. But you have a large vehicle here. You have a 5-seater. You have a lot of trunk space. You have a really good daily driving American muscle car that can do a whole lot. And as we downshift, it sounds good. It definitely sounds good. Personally, I think I wish it was louder, but you really hear that supercharger whine over everything. And here we go with another acceleration. I'm sure you can hear that through the audio there, that supercharger whine. Definitely pretty cool. So basically $80,000 you're spending for this American muscle car that's one of the most practical, one of the most highest in performance as far as the actual horsepower and torque numbers, and a pretty good daily driver. You can absolutely daily drive this two-doored coupe and just have it in a normal setting. Now, if I go back to SRT, I have been in the auto mode, so let's put it into a track mode for the remaining of this drive. Now, that doesn't do anything. As far as the exhaust note, I can hear some of the cracks and pops in the exhaust, which is nice. But it doesn't make it louder, which would be cool to see. Or to hear, I should say. But it's nice that it's refined in a way that you can drive this every day. There's not a lot of road noise, not a lot of wind noise, anything like that. So, I mean, you could drive this from point A to point B, and then when you're ready, push on a few buttons and take this on some back roads, possibly. I don't have too much experience with these on twisty roads, but you have a lot of power to those rear wheels, so not gonna be quite as nimble as some other brands. But it definitely gets up. I love how quick these paddles are, and while they are just the upper section there, it's not really all that bad to get used to, so it is nice to see that. So 80 grand for the Challenger. Like some other people have commented, I can't agree with some of the interior materials, although we have leather, Alcantara. You know, there's plastic on the dash, which would be nice to see that updated in some newer models. Hopefully they do come out with the next gen Challenger and they don't go away from the supercharged V8, because Dodge has been one of the only companies to really offer that in a lot of their models, and to hopefully keep that American true NA or combustion engine alive. Hopefully they will do that for the next year and maybe update the interior just slightly. But that's going to wrap it up for the latest generation for the Dodge Challenger SRT Hellcat Redeye. Once again, huge shout out to Carolina Auto Direct for providing this vehicle for me today. Check out their website. That link is down in the description. If you enjoyed today's video, give it a huge thumbs up. Smash that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our daily uploads. I will see you all in the next video.